Bye. My name is Josh Miller. I own Riverstone Kennels, and I've been training gun dogs for more than 16 years. I have field trialed, I've hunt tested, but at the end of the day, I'm a duck hunter. You might find that the duck in our DUK Dogs podcast is spelled uniquely. The UK stands for my British Labs. I love my British Labs. I love what they offer me, both as a part of my family and the high motor in the field. As you're going to find, I have some pretty special dogs. Follow along in our podcast series here as we talk about both in the field hunting and in the field training situations that will hopefully help you progress with your dog at home. Welcome back once again to DUK Dogs, everybody. I'm your host, Josh Miller, and before we get going, let's make sure we thank our wonderful sponsors that make this show possible. So we have a great group of sponsors, and I do the same introduction every time, so I'm going to do this a little different here. I'm going to list off, so DUK is our presenting sponsor, Sitka Gear, Gun Dog Supply, Kent Cartridge, Lucky Duck, Retriever Roadmap, and Gun Dog Grind. And cannot thank that group of sponsors enough. Again, it really does help this whole thing go around and helps us with the cost we accrue off of this thing. And so thank you so much for all of those guys. And I appreciate the support that you guys as the listeners give to those companies that help us bring this to you. So thank you to all of those guys. So a little bit of a speed round here. So I have Eric from the kennel here with me today.
How you doing, everybody?
Good.
Awesome.
I guess respond for them.
You
Good.
respond for them.
So one thing that we have going on here is we have been in pickup and drop off week. So I've had my advanced dogs going home. We've had Bird and Gun intro class come in here on Tuesday. We have had hunts started. So I was just in Kansas for a dove hunt. I leave on Monday for Texas for a dove hunt, and it's kind of that season, so we love it. It's great. But this is going to be a little bit of a speed round because in about 25 minutes I need to be on a live. So something that we do for the Retriever Roadmap community is this thing that I call run reviews, and I actually got this from a guy that I was following as far as just kind of like looking for some coaching from a roping standpoint. For new to the podcast, I tie down rope in the PRC rodeo circuit, and just in trying to get better, I use this guy's program, and very similar to what Retriever Roadmap is, but he would do this thing every once in a while called run reviews, and where you could send in your rodeo run, and then he would critique it. And so I kind of stole that idea and morphed it into what we have, which is people send in a segment of the training session, and then I can help kind of critique. And so it's a cool thing. I really like it. I think it gives me more opportunity to help guide and teach, but then the number of people that I think watch and listen to it and learn from other people's situations, I think it's really valuable.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I actually did a few myself before I started working with you, but it's a good opportunity for people to put stuff out there to you in a Facebook private setting where they don't have to worry about people bashing them and some of these other sites, and they can be vulnerable with it, and you give positive feedback on it, and I think it's been really good. I think we got 7 or 8 to do today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's funny? You say that, and it's true. I don't understand why. The number of people that have sent messages saying the exact same thing, as far as like, man, if I'd ask a question in another group, it'd be everyone that had sarcastic answers and put me down. And like, how else is someone supposed to learn?
It's bad.
And what I think is funny, I think the majority of people making those comments, they don't actually know themselves. And so it's just this completely ridiculous thing that pushes people off. And that's what's so frustrating about it, is like you have all of this information out there, between, YouTube and programs like Retriever Roadmap. And I mean, there's so much out there. but where can you really go, and who can you really trust, and what information is valuable, what isn't, and I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole here, but the number of people that think that they're an expert, think that they know what they're doing. Why? Because you've worked with 3 dogs, right? Do 103, and then let's come back and have a conversation, right? I mean, like it's just so crazy to me. And then it's even crazier that someone can be vulnerable, open up, ask a question, and then to be ridiculed about it, or to act like like they're dumb for asking the question, or how do you not know that, or like some sarcastic answers. It is absolutely ridiculous. So anyway, not going to go down that because I could get pulled down that way, but it is cool that we can have this kind of a community and so much support inside of it. So before I get going too much, I do think I owe an apology of sorts, I think, to anyone that was going to go to the Oshkosh, Wisconsin Waterfowlers Expo. I am really sorry that I wasn't there. So I'll tell you what happened. We came off Game Fair. 2 weekends of Game Fair was great. Eric and I actually drove in the truck together. We drove the Retriever Roadmap trailer down to the show, got it dropped off, got all set up that night, went and had dinner, everything totally fine. And then we got to the hotel, which was non-dog friendly. And of course, you had Phoenix with you, Eric. Whitney had Purdy. I think didn't I have Tucker, because that's what I was going to use in my demo.
And Brett had one or two.
Brett had, so we just had a bunch of dogs, and of course, none of the hotels were pet friendly. And so you guys were kind of playing dog Tetris, trying to get all the crates and locked up and secured and everything. And it just like hit me of like, I got to go lay down. And that night into the next day was awful. I mean, just like my whole body, was just aches. I had chills. I was nauseous. I was the whole thing. It was terrible. And so if you followed the show for the last few years, you know this. If you haven't, it may be news to you, but 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with Lyme's disease. And this was about the second time since that time that I've had a flare-up of it. That's at least what the doctors think that it was. And it is just it's so unpleasant. And so unfortunately, I just could not bring myself to get to that show. So I do apologize if anybody went there. I know, Eric, you said that a few people came up saying that they came just to see the seminars. I am really sorry about that, you guys. I just could not do it. So
yeah, Brett and I were able to run it. You guys had a couple speaking engagements there that people were there to see, but they came up and they understood. And I just know a bunch of people were hoping to see you and Whitney, and unfortunately, it is what it is. You had to take care of yourself, so that's good.
Yeah,
you
it's
did
unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but I spent the majority of that afternoon in urgent care running tests, getting needles stuck in me, all that fun stuff. So I hate needles. I don't know what it is. Like, I'm such a wuss about needles. So I go into urgent care. I feel like garbage. We just drove 4+ hours, and I laid in the back of Whitney's expedition because I just couldn't stay comfortable. I mean, it felt like 14 hours. It was so terrible. So we get back into town and get to urgent care, walk in, and I walk in. It's a Saturday afternoon, right? So nobody's there. Nurse walks out as I'm walking in. She says, the receptionist, she goes, "Oh, shoot, I'm going to Dairy Queen to get some coffee. I need something." And I'm like, okay. Well, sure enough, an hour passes. I'm getting my first needle stuck in me. And who's the nurse that walks in? The nurse that needed that. So either my thought is, you're either still tired or you're jacked up on caffeine. Like, either one of those don't seem real great for the pincushion of my arm that you're going to stick this in. And she was fine. She came in. She's like, "Do you have an arm preference?" And I was like, "Well, I prefer neither." And so she was a good sport about the whole thing. But yeah, I hate the needle thing.
That's okay. I'm sure Whitney was loving it, though.
Oh, gosh.
She was loving that, watching you complain.
She was so embarrassed. So we were sitting in there, and actually, ironically enough, the doctor that came in was the same doctor that I diagnosed with the Lyme's. Yeah. And I'm sure he had a chart, right? So I'm sure he didn't remember this, but he came in, and he's like, "Hey, so how are we feeling?" I kind of told him, and he's like, "Well, you think this is, from the Lyme's?" And like he knew it, so again, I'm sure it was a chart, but Whitney was so embarrassed to be there with me. They, like, the first nurse asks, like, like, ask me all these questions. And then, she's like, and are you his wife? And she's like, yeah. She goes, we're coming back from a show. I wouldn't normally go to the hospital with my adult husband that can take care of himself. I'm like, you're really this embarrassed to be here? Like you had to make a point to say it. That's classic Whitney. Okay, so let's talk about the heat because we had specifically 2 clients that both told us that they had issues with the heat this weekend. Both these clients were from Texas. Both of these clients, I think, are really good about their dogs. I'd say, for generally speaking, certainly both care about their dogs a lot, but they've got themselves into scary situations. And so, if you're not from down south, if you're not from Texas, most of these hunts are in very warm days, especially for us. For us, when we go to Kansas, it's usually warmer there than it is here by a lot, right? Generally speaking. But also well, not this year. This year was like 52 degrees one morning. It was crazy. Like I was like sweatshirt, hood up, like I was cold. But it's something that we do need to be aware of. And so actually on the way over here, I called Dr. Spoo and kind of talked to him about this because I had been told at one point that it takes 21 days for a dog to acclimate to a new climate. So you take a dog that is up here in Wisconsin, say training all summer long, nice cool mornings, nice cool days for the most part, right? We're not running this extreme heat. And then they go down to Texas where it's 103 degrees, obviously a very different intensity of heat. And what happens, right? The dogs they struggle getting acclimated to that. And so I wanted to run by him because I wanted it to be, that was just something that I had heard. I don't have any like substantial facts behind it or no like research that says that anything like that. And of course, when I give you guys information on here, I like to be more factual, less opinionated. And so I called Dr. Spoo and asked him, and he's like, man, like, to be honest with you, he's like, I think there's a lot of dogs that don't ever acclimate, especially to the extreme heat. And he's like, that's probably one of the biggest reasons that I live in South Dakota. This is Dr. Spoo speaking, rather than down south, because I've never had a dog that handles the heat. And so I'm up here to where I don't have to worry about that as much. And, he said for a dog to have a chance at acclimating, they do need multiple weeks. So you think about that. Think about going on a hunting trip. Like for me, I go from Wisconsin to Kansas. I'm giving my dogs like 8 hours to acclimate. Like there's no way that dog is acclimated to that climate and is going to be able to handle the temperature change that I put them into, right? So I think we all just have to think about that. These dogs, just like us, right? If we're up here in Wisconsin, Minnesota, this is a very common thing for people up here, right? Wisconsin, Minnesota, and then all of a sudden, hey, we go middle of March, we're getting out of here, getting out of the snow, we're going down to Fort Myers Beach, we're gonna go have vacation. That feels a lot warmer to us than if you live in Florida, right? We're not used to it. Just like the guys down in Arkansas that I hunt with, they can't fathom. And now, Eric, you know this, and anyone that's up in this area knows this. If you've gone through the winter, the dead of winter, a Minnesota, Wisconsin winter, and or to any of the northern states, right? But it's cold. It's negative 10 degrees. It's wind chill. It's everything else. And then all of a sudden, spring starts coming and it gets to 30 degrees. You feel like it's t-shirt weather, right? Like you're like, oh my gosh, this is great. This is awesome. Like guys down south are like, you guys are crazy. But it's just a different acclimation. The thought of a dog never acclimating, I think, goes deeper than they just may not be geared for it. But I think there's more to it of how can a dog acclimate? Okay, so let's just say the dog goes from Wisconsin to Texas. That dog is in Texas, and hey, he's been here for 3 weeks, so I'm thinking he should be acclimated. Well, if he's sat in the AC for 23 of the 24 hours a day, that's not acclimating, right? So the whole reason for bringing this up is being cautious, or conscious, I should say, of the dog in the environment you're putting them into, and not getting to the point that you're pushing them into that danger zone. Once you hit that danger zone, you can't go back, and you need to do everything you can to cool that dog down. I mean, Whitney and I have had numerous times where we've been in Kansas, and maybe we don't shoot our limit in the morning, so we're going to go out in the afternoon. But the afternoon is just so dang hot. We don't have any shade to sit by. We're not hunting around water to where we can cool down. That the dog's not going. No, it's not as fun. But the dog's not going because we're not going to take that chance, especially there because we are a long ways from any kind of real vet. Mm-hmm. I mean, those are all things you got to consider on this thing.
Yeah, I saw it take place last year. I went to our pheasant ranch in Missouri in, I think it was February. So I just had to scout my 3-year-old, got done duck hunting, cold weather. It wasn't a lot of snow last year, but it was still cold. And she's never pheasant hunted in her life before. I've just strictly been going with duck. I was going to do pheasant later. So this is the first time she's seen pheasants. I think it was 60. Her mind was blown. She was loving this because she's a high, likes to move. And boy, that first day, I mean, she crushed everything, but I was like, I had to pull her off because she was panting hard and I was kind of in the danger zone a little bit. But her just being so excited to be running around and chasing pheasants to acclimating to that weather change. And I didn't give her any time. Mm-hmm. We just went. Mm-hmm. And I learned a lot by that. I'm going to be a little bit more careful this next winter when we go out there, but I understand it. Yeah. You got to be real careful.
Well, that's not the ripple into it, right? Like we're not walking down Main Street on a leash here. Like we're doing the epitome of what they want to go do. No. And especially in how your specific dog responds. If your dog geeks out, if your dog gets amped up, if your dog is on his toenails, yeah, that dog is going to be affected by that much quicker, right? Because their energy level is going to be up there. I mean, everything. So I think there's just so much to be said about it, and I just cannot overstate it enough of do not push the dog to that point. There's no going back from that point.
There's no going back. It's not worth it. You just got to be very careful with it. And I got lucky last year, to be honest with you, because this happened in the first hour.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, I better be careful here because we're not easing into it. It was 100 miles an hour as soon as we started hunting.
Yeah. Well, at least you recognize it, right? Because I think a lot of times people have this pitch count in their head, right? Of like, well, we've only been out here for an hour. Like, she should be able to handle this. That's not, I mean, time is irrelevant. It's what is going on, between those ears right now. It's a tough thing to understand, I think, especially if you're not looking for it, but you got to look for it, right? You got to look for it. That kind of segues me a little bit. Got to look for it. I told a client that last week, and I've heard a lot about people that struggle with hunts, not getting their dog out enough hunts in a year, and I get it, right? Like, the reality is, all of us have lives, all of us have families, jobs, hobbies, obligations. All of us have things that are going to get in the way of getting to hunt as much as we'd like to. And I think there's frustration that ends up building because the reality is, I think everyone knows this in their heart, unless we get on hunts, there's no way that my dog is going to progress. Not to the level that I want them to be, right? You can train all summer long, but unless you get in those live situations and those live hunts, there's just, you can only do so much, right? From the environment, the opportunity, the what have you, so you just gotta be looking for it, right? Like, so what I mean by that is finding the little situation. It doesn't have to be a full-blown hunt. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to carry a gun. I mean, there's so many opportunities I feel like that are out there. You just sometimes have to be creative and find them, right? So like an opportunity, if you're an upland hunter, if you have a local game farm that you're like, hey, I can't afford to be out there and spending $300 a day, to set out 10 birds, and like, I just can't do that. Well, what about going and talking with the owner and saying, hey, I've got this dog. I work with him a bunch. I'm happy to help guide, right? Now, obviously, there's things to consider there too. With you don't know who you're guiding, you got to be professional enough to keep you and the dog safe. Of course, there's things, but like what I'm saying is like with this guy, that I specifically am referencing, like I brought that up. And he's like, oh, like I never thought about that. I've got one right down from my house. I bet you I could get a few extra hunts in, or they have tower shoots, right? You could go be a pickup dog on the tower shoots. I mean, there are these opportunities out there. It's just sometimes you have to be a little creative. You know, you got to find it. You got to look for it. If you're not looking for it, you're not going to find it. And I think that was my point. So, have you ever heard of this? I think it's an interesting topic. Have you ever heard of the red car theory?
I've not.
Okay, so I heard about this a while ago, and I've taken it to heart a little bit because I think there's a lot of truth to it. So here's the theory. So when you drove into the kennel today, you've got a 40-minute drive, right? How many red cars did you see on the way to work?
Well, 0 because it was dark out this morning because I had to do chores. But
Okay,
on a normal
take
drive,
yesterday.
none.
No red cars at all.
I don't remember seeing any. I
don't remember seeing
yeah.
it, right? But probably, I'm sure you saw
100%,
them, right? So the theory is that just that. Yeah, you saw them, but didn't register, right?
Correct.
Now, if I told you, hey, tomorrow when you drive into work, I will give you $100 for every red car that you see on your way into work, you'd notice every single red car you pass.
100%.
Right? Because it's important to you, and you're making the effort to acknowledge what's going on around you. And the theory is that is exactly how opportunity works. That's how luck works. When people say that, you know, people are lucky, oftentimes those people are more in tune with the opportunities that are happening around them. So they can take advantage, they can jump on that. If you're not aware of the opportunities that are going by, if you're going just like, you know, the red cars today going into work, you're not looking for it, so they're just going by you. They're there, they're plain sight, but you're not looking for them, so they're passing you. And I what I love so much about that is I just feel like there's so much truth to that in so many aspects of all of our lives. Of there are opportunities for us to, think of the thing that you're wanting to do, but you can't do it. There's a way for you to do that. You just got to find what that looks like. Where's the creativity? Where's the opportunity? And a lot of times for opportunities, you think about how that's why, you know, and you know this, Eric, but we're so big on writing down goals. Write down what's your short-term, mid-term, long-term goal. How are you going to reach that? What are the action items you're going to take to make that progress here this month? After this month, what do we have to do to build on that? Writing it down makes it real. So you're consciously thinking about it. How many times you talk to somebody that you haven't seen for a year? Oh, same old, right? Yeah. Same thing as you were doing 12 months ago, 24 months ago, 36 months ago. You're not looking for the opportunities.
Yeah, and I think they're out there. If you're looking for it and can think outside the box, is the biggest thing is just figuring out how you can make something happen. I didn't go teal hunting I'm really pumped up for duck hunting. I got this really good young dog I think is going to be a stud, a nice little female. I had to go out to our swamp to go scout it. It was during teal season. I could have shot. I didn't want to. But during that time to check out our area, there was training the whole time there with her. And I just tried to think of ways, going in that boat for the first time, oaring out there. I actually have to get out in portage a little bit because the bog moved, and then just setting her on the place board out there, and I threw a couple, and then there's birds flying. I never shot a gun, but my goal that day was to scout the area for my boys for the youth hunt, but also that was an outstanding time for that young dog to come with and train. And I didn't have any other opportunities to do it except that.
I just think there's so many of these, of the opportunities out there. And this is, to me, this really is bigger than dogs. This is life, right? But you got to be looking for them. And to me, so much of this comes down to attitude. If you're kicking rocks every day, looking down at your feet, kicking rocks, there's no way that you're going to see these opportunities, right? There's a reason that I just don't believe in coincidence. I just think everything happens for a reason. And I think that the whole when it rains, it pours mentality, I think there's a reason for that, right? Because your attitude breeds more of it attracts more of that to you. So if you're an energetic, positive person that wants to go live life to the fullest, you are going to see every one of those red cars. You're going to see every one of those opportunities when they come by you. You're not if it's poor me, if it's, same job, same thing, you are not going to see it. At least not the right one, right? So I just think there's so much to that. And that the hunting situation like that's what kind of led me down this road. But I also love the life stuff, as you know, and a lot of people on this show, they know. I kind of went away from it a little bit in here just because I really wanted to stay dog centric, but there's just too much value in that.
No, 100%.
If you can take that to heart right there, I truly believe you will see a difference in your life in the next month.
Yeah, you said something key there. Everything happens for a reason. Mm-hmm. I 100% believe that. And I don't want to get down a rabbit hole why I believe that, but it keeps me going. If something bad happens, it's supposed to happen. So I'm always, as soon as something bad happens, I'm already in this, how do we fix it mode instead of complaining about it. And I'm really trying to make, I like to say, try to make every day your masterpiece. Mm-hmm. And I try to surround people around me that are positive. And it's related to dog training, but you do a great job with life stuff. I know a lot of people like to hear about it. Mm-hmm. This is more than just us talking about training scenarios and all this stuff. And I think you do a great job at that. So I just wanted to bring up that piece about, everything happened for a reason. If you can get to that point in life, I think it's a lot easier to live.
Yeah, I love the make every day your masterpiece thing. You've said that a couple of times, since starting at the kennel. And I love that energy. I think that it's infectious, right? Everybody wants to be around that. Everyone wants to be a part of that. Gosh, I'd love to keep going on this, but we're 1 minute away from having to do this live run review. Yeah, we should get going on it. But anyway, go look for red cars today. The best thing I can give you today. Go look for red cars. Have a great week. Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Leave us a review on iTunes, and a special thank you to Eukanuba, because without them, we couldn't do what we do here, bringing this information to you.